can't unsee the fact that Zoe has 3 hands in this picture.
She doesn't have...
She
What?
does, look, she's got 3 hands. Her
No.
left hand is gripping on a hand that's beneath the hand that's holding the gun. She's got
She
3
only
hands.
has
Oh
6
shit,
fingers.
oh yeah.
Whoops. Greetings, ladies and laddies, and welcome back to another episode of our revamped Eldar Speedpainting series. If my voice sounds a little different today, it's because I've caught a nasty cold. But I'm getting better, so no worries. After starting off with the new Eldar Autark in last week's video, today we want to tackle the new iteration of the Eldar Rangers. There's really not much to say about the building side of things, except maybe that you gotta read the guide really closely. Every ranger has 2 different build options, which are shown directly next to each other, and if you're not careful, parts of different kits can easily get mixed up. After every ranger is assembled and primed black, we take a rich dark grain on a big brush and quickly paint the outside of their coats. Just swipe across the coats with quick and confident motions. Hence we have nothing to look out for, we have nothing to hold us back either. For the inlay and the hoods, we take some light green with beige mixed in, as to make it look a little bit paler. Where the outside was easy, the inlay is a surprising pain, because we need to twist the brush around a lot of awkward angles to reach every last spot. When all the coats are done, we turn our attention to all their armor parts with Bordeaux Red. Most of the parts, like pauldrons and chest plates, are easy to make out and easy to paint, though there are lots of other areas which are a bit trickier, sometimes even just a slither of plate visible under the coat, so it can take more than one go to find and paint them all. For their amazing boots, gloves, and other leathery bits, we take the darkest brown that we have. Next to foot and handwear, we paint pouches, belts, and all of the cases and bags they carry around on their backs. Before we know it, half of the models are covered in brown, and with that, they're still quite dark and don't really have much that makes them stand out on the battlefield. That's gotta change, so when we come to the rifles and pistols, I chose to not paint them in a dark blue as we did with the Autark, but rather in a pale clay orange. I didn't want to go with outright white, as I thought that it might put up too harsh of a contrast. The one thing that does get painted in a bright white is the floating shear generator I suppose is being deployed here, as well as this Eldar's helmet and some details here and there. For the skin of the Eldar without helmets, we take a pale rosy terracotta, before we take a dark blue tinted grey to take care of the open and closed helmets. Now it's the true metallic metals time to shine, which in this case mainly means a very bright gold. Taking a fine brush, we'll use it to paint trinkets hanging from belts, buttons on pouches and boots, and, most importantly, all the ornamental trims on their rifles' recoil pads, and on the cases and bags they carry on their back. This might look tedious and even difficult, but trust me, it's lots of fun. We also put a little bit of silver to good use, painting this Eldar stagger with it. The groundwork for our Eldar is now done, and although we could just get to the wash and call it mission accomplished, where would be the fun in that? As these coats are really lacking some cool camouflage. Just trust me, this is gonna be fun. For the camouflage patterns, I'm gonna use a green brighter than the base, a light green which is not as bright as the inlay, and some pure black. Armed with all of these colors, we want to paint a few straight lines in sharp angles and even in full triangles on the coat. When deciding the direction of these lines, it helped to imagine I was weaving some sorts of Celtic knots, and always reminding myself to not overdo it with the angles and colors, but most importantly for you guys, just have fun with it. I know it might look difficult and time intensive, but trust me, it's a really fun exercise with a great look in the end. After all of the coats are finished, it's finally time for the wash stage. Taking a big brush and a healthy amount of black wash, we make sure to cover the whole body and equipment of the Rangers, except for the coats. As they don't have any folds or other recesses for the wash to settle in, with the folded hoods being the exception in the exception. While we're waiting for the wash to dry, instead of twiddling our thumbs, we can use the time to paint up their bases. First we want to take the dark texture paint style and mud to paint the earth itself. Then we want to give the ground a mustard brown overbrush, which essentially is a wet dry brush, and then finish the base with a heavy dry brush of vibrant orange. Now we just give the faces another coat of their base tone to get some light back on the mini, and take some purple to pick out all of their gemstones. Then we just paint the trims in a smooth pitch black, before calling the speed paint officially done. After quite a discouraging start with the rough inlay of their coats, all 5 of the Rangers are now fully painted. I really like how they turned out, and their coats especially are the coolest eye-catcher I've done in a while, so I can only recommend you to try it too. But before you head off to get to work on your own minis, let me just quickly use the next few minutes to show you guys a handful of easy extra steps, which should go beyond the scope of a speed paint, but really help to elevate your models to the next level. The first thing you want to come back to is the armor. The wash dialed it down quite a lot, but the Eldar of Saim-Han are known for bold, flamboyant colors. After refreshing the plates with a fresh coat of Bordeaux, we take a rich, vibrant red and go along the rims of their pauldrons and put more attention to all the parts that catch the most light. Having the armor resaturated, we take up our bright green from earlier and paint it along the edges of the coat, so the overall shape gets more definition. While highlighting their weapons with the same clay orange that we used for the base, we don't just cover up the whole thing as we did with the armor, but rather pick out all of the bumps and spots that are just convenient to paint in general. The floating shield generator gets highlighted in a similar fashion, with only the antennas and rims getting a fresh coat of paint. I also wanted to put more interest in the bulb in the middle, by starting with a fresh blue base, and then working our way up until we reach a pure white in the middle. To make the gems really look semi-transparent, we paint a light arch on the bottom, away from the light source, and a dark arch on the top, facing the light source. A white dot for the reflection finishes the look nicely. Coming really close to the finishing line, I decided to paint the lenses of scopes and augmentations with sky blue, and spice it up with the eye lenses on the helmets with some very light blue toward the nose. Speaking about eyes, with so many Eldars having no helmet, I tried to give them some convincing eyeballs, although this is definitely something that the Eldar don't need to look awesome. After painting the eyes, as my sanity had already slipped away anyway, I think we can take our finest brush and paint some tattoos on their heads, like aspect runes, or some Tears of Isha for example. Finally, I wanted to address the idol of Khorne that came with the Rangers. Here we start with a pale blue base coat all over the mini, but instead of taking some light grey to give it a stone appearance, we take a true metallic bronze and give the whole thing a heavy dry brush. As you can see, the pale blue now sits snugly in the recesses, giving the statue an old oxidized effect, and concluding all of the extras that I have for you today. The 5 new Rangers that came with the Eldritch Omens box set are now fully painted, and I think we did a really good job with them. Kind of ironic how they are going to be the eye-catcher on the battlefield, despite their role being one of stealth. As always, I'll have a detailed guide with all of the exact paints that I used on these minis down in the description of the video. And should you have any questions, maybe a couple of suggestions, be my guest and share your thoughts in the comment section. I really just adore the dynamic poses and details that are being put into these new models. Finally, they're starting to hold up to the Space Marines, and with even new units being introduced, the Eldar really seem to rise from the ashes. Speaking of new units, in the next and last video of this particular series, we are going to paint the new Shroudrunner jet bikes, and if you're interested in how they're gonna look, as well as more speed painting guides like this one, feel free to hit the subscribe button. As I am really looking forward to seeing you again in my next video. Until then, take care.